This guide is designed to help you through some of the basics with Photoshop. We'll be using the Windows version of Photoshop, but the Mac version follows a very similar path. To begin, we've placed all of our assets in a convenient location. In this case, they're on our desktop. And we'll begin by opening up the Photoshop application. We'll start by looking at the image quality of particular assets. I'll open up one of the assets from our location, in this case the tree frog, and I'll see it here on screen. I'll change the image so it fits onto screen, and then using the window menu I'll click on Navigator. By zooming in on particular parts, we can see the quality of our particular image. And you'll notice, in this particular example, we get to a certain point and the quality begins to drop off. This particular file is not a particularly high resolution one. And that's the benefit of the Navigator. It allows us to zoom in and out to see the quality of an image. The brightness and contrast of an image can be easily adjusted using Photoshop. I'm going to navigate to my assets, and in this example I'm going to open up the balls image. I'll change the view of the image so it fits to screen. Navigating to the Image tab, I can go to Adjustments and I can choose the Brightness Contrast menu. I'm presented with two sliders. Moving them in any particular way will change the appearance of the image. And when I'm happy, I can press OK. An alternative to this is the auto level. I can go to my image adjustments level and I can choose auto and then press OK. Photoshop will automatically adjust the levels according to the high and low balance it thinks is best. The levels can also be manually adjusted, again from image adjustment levels. Rather than clicking auto, you can change the output from the high to the low. So we can change the black and we can maneuver the white. So the histogram will change slightly. The hue or saturation of an image can also be easily changed in Photoshop. From my assets, I'm going to open up the Ganges River, and again I'll make it fit to screen. From the image menu, I'll choose Adjustments and Hue Saturation. I can change the sliders until I've got a particular colour set that I'm happy with. Cropping is a powerful function in Photoshop. I might find that there's a particular part of an image I want to take, or the actual image itself needs a slight adjustment. Perhaps the horizon isn't horizontal. From my assets, I'm going to open up the dog image. In this particular case, my horizon isn't quite level. First of all, I need to select the entire image, either using the marquee and dragging through, or pressing Select All. I can then click on the Edit menu and go to Free Transform. At this point, I've got an ability to rotate as I seem fit. And I might decide that I want it particularly skewed. Double clicking puts the image into place. I might also find that there's only part of an image that I actually want. To crop my image, using the marquee tool, I select part of the image that I'm after, and from the image menu, I choose crop. This will keep only part of the image that I was after. I'm going to open the space image from my assets. And I'd like to find out a little bit of information about this particular file. To do so, I'm going to choose Image and Image Size. This will give me information about the pixel dimensions and the document size. This can be changed at any point by simply changing some of the numbers. So perhaps rather than 1280 pixels wide, I'd like that to be 1000. To save or export files in Photoshop, I choose File, Save As. And then I can save it as a variety of different types, from JPEGs to PNGs to the original Photoshop RAW file. In this example, we'll look at how we can add shapes to an image. I'm going to open up a particular asset, in this case the dragonfly image. Initially, I'm going to change the foreground colour and then right-click in the Tool menu. I'm given a variety of different shapes. I simply click and drag a particular shape. And using the Move tool, I can move it around my image. It's been placed on a different layer to my background. I can delete this at any point if I'm unhappy with it, by right-clicking the layer and pressing Delete Layer. The Pencil tool acts in a similar way. I'm going to change my foreground colour and then select the Pencil tool. I can change the size of the pencil, and I can simply draw a pencil line. And this is the same for the brush tool. I can select the brush tool from a menu. In this case, I might change the colour. And again, I can change the size and the style of the brush. And I can draw. I can remove content using the eraser tool. Again, I can change the size and I can simply take out particular parts of the image. Now this image will change that to the white background colour that I've chosen. Opening a file with a transparent background and using the eraser tool will show the transparent background of that particular image. Undoing these changes, I can look at manipulating the gradient. I'm going to change the foreground colour to black. And from the Layer, New Fill Layer, Gradient menu, I'm going to choose a new layer and I'm going to manipulate my gradient. In this particular example, I'm going to look at going from black to transparent. There's a variety of changes that I can make, including changing the angle of which it is applied to, or even the style. In this case, I'm going to have a reverse diamond. And I can move it around to a position that I feel works appropriately. And I can change the scale to increase or decrease the percentage coming in. And when I'm happy, I can press OK to see my gradient. I have a variety of different filters at my disposal using Photoshop. From my assets, I'm going to open up the Emperor Penguins and I'll fit them to screen. There are a variety of different filter options that I can choose, including filters such as the oil paint, liquefy, and I can also apply filters to particular parts of the image. I can select individual parts, and for example a pixelate filter will take out the identity of select penguins. Text is easily added to a Photoshop image. Using my type tool, I can draw out a particular shape where I'd like my text to go and begin typing. With all of this, I can select my text and I can change from the top menu the size, if it is centered, and the color of the text. I'm going to begin by opening the rose image. I might find that I want to change the image size that I've currently got. Going to the image size menu, I can change the pixel dimensions or the overall document size, and I can lock the aspect ratio if I choose to or not. I might decide that I only want the width to be a couple of centimetres, and that will make my image significantly smaller. To change the colour curves of an image, I'm going to open up my rose asset and I'm going to fit that to screen. I'm going to choose Image Adjustments, Curves. I can change the colour by manipulating the line. Until I'm happy with the overall look. Understanding layers is an absolutely crucial skill when trying to master Photoshop. I'll begin by trying to place a few images on top of one another. I'm going to start with a background image, and I'll open up a second image of a rose. I'd like to place this rose somewhere onto this background. I can achieve this by selecting part of the image and copying it, and then going to the background image and hitting paste. I can then drag this part around. On the right hand side, you'll notice that I have my original background layer, and now I have my rose layer entitled Layer 1, and I can hide that or show that. Although it doesn't look realistic at all, that's the basics in layering one image over the other. Deleting this layer out, we could manipulate our original rose to try and make it a little bit more realistic. I'm going to select the entirety of the image and copy it. And I'm going to make a new file that has a transparent background. And I'm going to paste this over. I'm now going to use a tool called the magic wand to try and remove some of the background, the green parts that I don't want. You can do this relatively quickly with a tool such as the Magic Wand, but for real fine detail you need to take your time to make sure all parts that you don't want to be seen are in fact removed. It often helps to zoom in on certain parts to check that everything has been taken out. For now, that's roughly good enough. At this point, I'm going to select my image, and again I'm going to copy it. And going back to the original background, I'm going to paste it over the top. I can use the Move tool to move it around as I desire, and I can also change the size of that image by choosing the Edit Free Transform tab. I'm going to make that significantly smaller and drag it to a location of my choice. I've got my background image and I've now got layer 1. And I could do this multiple times. I could select my image again and I could paste it over the top. And again, I could free transform it in any particular way that I think looks good. And you'll notice now that I've got my original background layer and 2 extra layers. And these can be hidden or shown at any point. And if I'm unhappy with any of them, I can right click them and delete. Layer styles is a particularly powerful function of Photoshop, which works well for shapes and texts. From my assets, I'm going to open up the file Acropolis, and I'm going to fit it to screen. And from the layer menu, I'm going to choose layer style, and I've got a variety of different options here. In this case, I'm going to choose pattern overlay. Well, actually, I have access to all the others at the top here. There's a variety of different patterns, and I can add my own if I feel them appropriate. There are a huge variety of different selection tools in Photoshop, and each should be used in particular ways. From my assets, I'm going to open up the Rose file, and I'll fit it to screen. Right-clicking on the Marquee tool shows me a variety of different choices. I can go for rectangular, elliptical, and others, such as single row or a single column. I've also got the lasso tool. I've got a freehand lasso which will follow wherever I move the mouse or stylus that I'm using. I've also got the polygonal lasso tool which will draw straight lines from point to point. Finally, I have a magnetic lasso tool which will try and follow based on colour set points around the image, and I can click at any point to use or define a given area. I've also got the Magic Wand tool which will select areas based on colour. I can click it and holding Shift I can click a variety of different areas to keep building up particular parts that I think I would like to copy. And so with anything selected, again I could copy, delete or change. In this case I'm going to copy and just paste it into a new file. And there's the part copied using the Magic Wand tool. With enough time and patience, this can be a very effective way of removing unwanted parts of an image. In this guide, we'll have a quick look at feathering. I'm going to open up the Dragonfly asset. Selecting part of the image will give a very defined boundary. This is where the use of feathering comes in. From the Select menu, I'll go to Modify and Feather, and I'll select a feather radius. Now, although on screen this doesn't look any different, this will actually smoothen out the area that I've selected. I can then apply some filters to this, including the Blur Fill Blur. Photoshop includes a variety of different tools which are extremely powerful and versatile and allow for high levels of image manipulation. I'm going to open up the Taj Mahal asset and I'll fit it to screen. Now in this image, there's a particular part that I don't want. There's something in the water that I'd like to get rid of. An effective way to do this is to use the clone tool. I'm going to zoom in on my image and this is the part that I'd like to have removed. Selecting the clone tool from the menu and pressing and holding Alt and then clicking once with the left mouse button, I've now created this as a target. I can now move over to part of the image that I no longer want, and holding down the left hand mouse button I can start to have that removed. It will replace it with the target image that I had selected previously. If I fit that back to the screen, you'll notice this can be an extremely powerful function. Now I can actually choose to change the size of my clone snap tool, and then perhaps selecting a different area, I can hold down the Alt and choose a new target, and I can begin drawing perhaps an addition to the Taj Mahal. A very simple but effective way of highly manipulating an image. I'm now going to look at the healing tool within Photoshop. I'm going to choose the woman image from my assets. And in this particular case, I want to try and remove some of the blemishes on the face. To do this, I'm going to use the healing tool. Again, like the clone tool, I'm going to hold Alt and choose a target area. And now, holding down the left hand mouse button, I can manipulate it. And I'm going to go to a few different target areas to keep the original profile of the picture as accurate as I can. You'll notice that it's a particularly effective way of changing the image. So the final product is very definitely photoshopped. Having saved this as a new file and now opening up the original, you'll notice it's significantly different and very difficult to spot where the original blemishes were. Using Photoshop, text can easily be added to images to enhance them. From my assets, I'm going to open up the woman image, and I'm going to add a little bit of text. I can easily add effects to my text by ensuring that I've chosen the correct layer, for example the text layer, and going to Layer, Layer Style, and choosing a variety of different options. In this case, I'm going to use Gradient Overlay. I can choose from a variety of different gradients. I might find that I've got an image that seems to be out of perspective and needs to be amended. From my assets, I'll open up the Acropolis, and you'll notice that the building seems to be skewed. It seems to be at an angle. This is probably because the person taking the photo is significantly lower than the building. I can edit this by selecting the image and going to the Edit menu, Transform, Skew. And this will allow me to move the image until it gets to a point where it appears to be straight. It's very important to consider what kind of file you'll be using and exporting with Photoshop. For example, from my assets, I'm going to open up a woman image. I might then decide to add some text to this file. And as previously, I might choose to change the gradient for it. Now this is a working file. This should be my master. It's got the original background, but it's now got some text with some gradients affected. So if I go to save this, it will automatically be saving as a Photoshop file. So perhaps I'll call this Woman Master. I can still now edit these layers and the background as I see fit. However, if I wanted this final product to go onto the internet, or I was delivering it to a client, I probably wouldn't want to give them the original master Photoshop file. Instead, I want to export it. So in this case, I'm now going to go to Save As, and I'm going to change it to Woman Customer. And I'm going to change this to a JPEG. If I now open up that export, Woman Customer, you'll notice that the files don't look any different. However, on the Woman Customer file, I've lost all of my layers. I simply have one image. But my master file has the background and the text and the gradient applied to it. And these can all be manipulated as I see fit. So it's very important when you're working in Photoshop and you want to go back to it with editing and continuation of a project, that you save it as a Photoshop file. But if you're exporting it for a customer, it needs to be saved as a JPEG or a PNG or an alternative.